What's up guys, and welcome to this video today. In this one I want to talk about probably the number one mistake that I see many people making within their striking and movement in general, and that's having a lack of the hollow body position when you move. And this is something that is often related to weakness in the core but isn't limited to it by any means. And what I mean by that is you can have a really strong core and a visible six-pack and stuff like that, but that doesn't automatically mean that your striking techniques and movements in general are going to kind of be as efficient as they could be. So this is what the hollow position looks like, and it's the position you need to maintain when striking. The opposite of this is flexing the spine backwards, which is something that many people don't realise they're doing when they move. Now this is something that is beyond any specific type of technique, but simultaneously is essential in all of them, whether that's kicks, punches, elbows or whatever. And it's a foundational principle that has a couple of facets to it. One of those is performing exercises to target the appropriate muscles in the core, and the other, which is actually more tricky to implement despite it not being physically demanding, is that you need to carry somewhat of a mental note with you to maintain posture, and it's something you need to be constantly aware of when you're training techniques so that you don't slip into having bad form until it becomes habitual. Now why do you need to worry about this then? Well, if you have a habit of falling out of that hollow position unconsciously, then you are drastically compromising the amount of power that you're able to put into your strikes, and it also has deleterious effects upon other areas of your skill set as well. So the thing that you need to know basically going forward then is maintaining this hollow position and having that strong composure in the core is something that's going to benefit all different areas of your training, and some of those include more efficiency in the kinetic chain. The core could be likened to a bridge that connects the upper and lower body, transferring energy and power efficiently. A strong core ensures that the force generated from the legs and hips is effectively transmitted to the limbs and isn't lost somewhere else along the way. Stability and balance. This is obviously important in maintaining a solid stance and moving effectively, but also in resetting your centre of gravity after striking or evading as well. So if your core is weak, you might overshoot and not be able to reset quickly, which leaves you in a vulnerable position. Agility and footwork. Core strength plays a crucial role in your level of agility and footwork. It allows you to maintain correct posture when moving, pivoting and shifting weight, which allows you to quickly change directions or strike at less optimal angles. Defence and evasion. A sturdy core facilitates the quick and precise movements needed in slipping, ducking and weaving to avoid incoming strikes, and allows you to reset your stability after performing these movements. Endurance and stamina. This also supports overall endurance, allowing you to maintain correct posture and reduce fatigue because you're containing your energy and not moving any more than absolutely necessary. If you have weakness here, then everything you do is going to be using just a little bit more energy than it really should, and it becomes death by 1,000 cuts. Injury prevention. Finally, quite an obvious one, having that stability in the core provides support to the spine and reduces the risk of injury or strain when you're training. So by now you've noticed that I'm using these two terms, which is the hollow body position and strength in the core, and while they are slightly different and have different elements to them, they're both connected, because when somebody falls out of the hollow position when they're moving, it's generally due to having a weak core. So that's why they're both connected in this way. Now, somebody who I think is an incredible example of what you should do is Mike Tyson. There isn't one frame I'm able to freeze here where his core positioning is compromised in any way. Every single movement he makes, even when he's shifting his weight and striking angle, he's in a strong position and is poised to explode. And it's no coincidence there that he was so powerful and defeated the majority of opponents, despite a lot of them being much bigger than him, by knockout punches. Studying techniques is really important, because obviously you need to know if you're doing the right thing or not and kind of comparing how your technique looks to somebody else. But the danger with doing too much of that is you can become mechanical in your movements. Just because you're in what looks like the right position though, this isn't sufficient enough to make the punch what is considered good. And by good I basically mean being in a position where you have composure and you're able to use all of the energy you generate from the kinetic chain, filter it up through your body and discharge it into the strike while losing as little as possible. It's not enough just to understand the correct position you should be in, but you also need to understand why you're doing those things specifically, and this is where different training modalities come in. So let's have a look at this clip of a guy called Chris, who I've been helping with his technique a little. So this is the early clip that he sent me first, and the biggest suggestion I had was that he needed to rotate through the hips more in the punches. So Chris has taken note of my critique here and understands how he should move into the punch. But this second clip demonstrates clearly what I'm talking about when I say that just knowing the specific position isn't enough to make that punch sufficient. Despite how he's now turning more through the hips, which results in his shoulders being more forward and optimal, it's still quite mechanical and lacks that composed hollow position. But this is what it means to refine your technique through multiple iterations. It doesn't just happen in one go. Now the hollow position becomes absolutely vital when actually asserting that power into a target. Specifically typically something that's really heavy, and what it does is create a buffer against the feedback of that target that will inevitably come back at you because all forces have an equal and opposite reaction. So Chris's second clip is obviously technically improved over the first example, but he's still lacking that hollow position, and you can't really understand the necessity of this until you're training with sufficient intensity, which is why another suggestion I gave him was to begin practicing with greater intent moving forwards. So doing just the activity itself will go a long way towards developing the specific muscles required, but at the same time you need to do it with enough intent to provide sufficient stimulus for those muscles to actually grow. Having strong intent in the strikes and using force engages the correct muscles naturally just by necessity. And so for example, I wouldn't be able to punch at this speed and with this explosiveness if I wasn't engaging the core strongly throughout. But with that being said, this is still a delicate balance because it's obviously advised not to just start going ham with your techniques until they are relatively good. But on the flip side, you do need a certain level of intent to get to what could be considered good in the first place. I've always been an advocate for slow drills and repetitions in order to, burn that technique into your muscle memory. But then in doing this, it begs the question, where is that threshold when the person can start to really apply that intent into the technique? And unfortunately, there isn't really a clear answer to that question, but the best way I could approach it is to say that you want to kind of try and achieve a balance between the two and not stacked too heavily on either side. One being only drilling techniques slowly and methodically, but never intensely enough to teach your body how that punch actually works, and the other where you always train full out and have no technique or idea of how your body should actually be positioned in order to have the best chance of delivering power with that strike. And we've all seen plenty of those people. So in order to develop this and kind of establish that hollow position, I'd recommend mindfully training some combinations of say 3 to 4 different techniques, and I would film it as well. Now when you review the clips, you just want to make sure it looks somewhat like you thought it did or felt when you were performing it. Or perhaps you could even compare your movements against somebody whose technique you admire. And then what I would do from there is just slowly build up that intensity once you're relatively happy with how it looks, and then you will avoid kind of, like I said, going too heavily on either side. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It's a little bit of an advanced topic, but at the same time it's one of the fundamental things you need in order to have that effective striking and movement. And I was going to include some drills of specifically how to target the core in this video, but I think that'll be better suited to another video. So thanks very much for watching as always. Please remember to like the video and subscribe, and also please leave a comment just because, it helps the engagement and allows the algorithm to recommend my content to more people who might benefit from it. See you in the next video, guys.